Now, we continue Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, Books 7 through 9. Take a slow breath in and slowly breathe it all out. Put away all your worries at this moment. You've done your best. The day comes to an end. You can rest. Your thoughts are only thoughts. What matters is this moment, right now. We will put your mind at ease together. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, The Seventh Book. 1. What is wickedness? It is that which many times and often thou hast already seen and known in the world. And so oft as anything doth happen that might otherwise trouble thee. Let this memento presently come to thy mind, that it is that which thou hast already often seen and known. Generally, above and below, thou shalt find but the same things, the very same things whereof ancient stories, middle-aged stories, and fresh stories are full, whereof towns are full and houses full. There is nothing that is new. All things that are both usual and of little continuance. Two. What fear is there that thy dogmata or philosophical resolutions and conclusions should become dead in thee, and lose their proper power and efficacy to make thee live happy, as long as those proper and correlative fancies and representations of things on which they mutually depend, which continually to stir up and revive is in thy power, are still kept fresh and alive. It is in my power concerning this thing that is happened, whatsoever it be, to conceit that which is right and true. If it be, why then am I troubled? Those things that are without my understanding are nothing to it at all, and that is it only, which doth properly concern me. Be always in this mind, and thou wilt be right. 3. That which most men would think themselves most happy for, and would prefer before all things, if the gods would grant it unto them after their deaths, thou mayest while thou livest grant unto thyself, to live again. See the things of the world again, as thou hast already seen them. For what is it else to live again? Public shows and solemnities with much pomp and vanity, stage plays, flocks and herds, conflicts and contentions. A bone thrown to the company of hungry curs, a bait for greedy fishes, the painfulness and continual burden-bearing of wretched ants, the running to and fro of terrified mice, little puppets drawn up and down with wires and nerves. These be the objects of the world. Among all these thou must stand steadfast, meekly affected, and free from all manner of indignation. With this right ratiocination and apprehension, that as the worth is of those things which a man doth affect, so is in very deed every man's worth more or less. 4. Word after word, every one by itself, must the things that are spoken be conceived and understood. And so the things that are done, purpose after purpose, every one by itself likewise. And as in matter of purpose and actions, we must presently see what is the proper use and relation of every one. So of words must we be as ready to consider of every one what is the true meaning and signification of it according to truth and nature, however it be taken in common use. 5. Is my reason and understanding sufficient for this, or no? If it be sufficient, without any private applause, or public ostentation as of an instrument, which by nature I am provided of, I will make use of it for the work in hand, as of an instrument, which by nature I am provided of. If it be not, and that otherwise it belong not unto me, particularly as a private duty, I will either give it over and leave it to some other that can better effect it, or I will endeavor it, but with the help of some other, who with the joint help of my reason is able to bring somewhat to pass, that will now be seasonable and useful for the common good. For whatsoever I do either by myself or with some other, the only thing that I must intend is that it be good and expedient for the public. For as for praise, consider how many who once were much commended are now already quite forgotten. Yea, they that commended them, how even they themselves are long since dead and gone. Be not therefore ashamed, whensoever thou must use the help of others. For whatsoever it be that lieth upon thee to effect, thou must propose it unto thyself, as the scaling of walls is unto a soldier. And what if thou, through either lameness or some other impediment, are not able to reach it unto the top of the battlements alone, which with the help of another thou mayst? Wilt thou therefore give it over, or go about it with less courage and alacrity, because thou canst not effect it all alone? 6. Let not things future trouble thee, for if necessity so require that they come to pass, thou shalt, whensoever that is, be provided for them with the same reason, by whatsoever is now present, is made both tolerable and acceptable unto thee. All things are linked and knitted together, and the knot sacred. Neither is there anything in the world that is not kind and natural in regard to any other thing, or that hath not some kind of reference and natural correspondence with whatsoever is in the world besides. For all things are ranked together, and by that decency of its due place and order that each particular doth observe, they all concur together to the making of one and the same cosmos, or world, as if you said, a comely piece, or an orderly composition. For all things throughout, there is but one and the same order, and through all things, one and the same God, the same substance and the same law. There is one common reason, and one common truth, that belongs unto all reasonable creatures, for neither is there, save one perfection of all creatures that are of the same kind, and partakers of the same reason. 7. Whatsoever is material doth soon vanish away into the common substance of the whole, and whatsoever is formal, or whatsoever doth animate that which is material, is soon resumed into the common reason of the whole, and the fame and memory of anything is soon swallowed up by the general age and duration of the whole. 8. To a reasonable creature, the same action is both according to nature and according to reason. 9. Straight of itself, not made straight. 10. As several members in one body united, so are reasonable creatures in a body divided and dispersed, all made and prepared for one common operation. And this thou shalt apprehend the better, if thou shalt use thyself often to say to thyself, I am melos, or a member of the mass and body of reasonable substances. But if thou shalt say, I am eros, or a part, thou dost not yet love men from thy heart. The joy that thou takest in the exercise of bounty is not yet grounded upon a due ratiocination and right apprehension of the nature of things. Thou dost exercise it as yet upon this ground barely, as a thing convenient and fitting, not as doing good to thyself, when thou dost good unto others. 11. Of things that are external, happen what will to that which can suffer by external accidents. Those things that suffer, let them complain themselves, if they will. As for me, as long as I conceive no such thing, that which is happened is evil, I have no hurt, and it is in my power not to conceive any such thing. 12. Whatsoever any man either doth or saith, thou must be good, not for any man's sake, but for thine own nature's sake, as if either gold, or the emerald, or purple, would ever be saying to themselves, whatsoever any man either doth or saith, I must still be an emerald, and I must keep my color. 13. This may ever be my comfort and security. My understanding that ruleth over all will not of itself bring trouble and vexation upon itself. This I say, it will not put itself in any fear. It will not lead itself into any concupiscence. If it be in the power of any other to compel it to fear or to grieve, it is free for him to use his power. But sure, if itself do not of itself, through some false opinion or supposition, incline itself to any such disposition, there is no fear. For as for the body, why should I make the grief of my body to be the grief of my mind? If that itself can either fear or complain, let it. But as for the soul, which indeed can only be truly sensible of either fear or grief, to which only it belongs according to its different imaginations and opinions, to admit of either of these, or of their contraries, thou mayest look to that thyself, that it suffer nothing. Induce her not to any such opinion or persuasion. The understanding is of itself sufficient unto itself, and needs not, if itself doth not bring itself to need, any other thing besides itself, and by consequent, as it needs nothing. So neither can it be troubled or hindered by anything, if itself doth not trouble or hinder itself. 14. What is eudaimonia, or happiness, but agathos daimon, or a good demon, or spirit? What then dost thou do here, O opinion? By the gods I adjure thee, that thou get thee gone, as thou earnest, for I need thee not earnest indeed unto me according to thy ancient wonted manner. It is that all men have ever been subject unto, that thou camest therefore I am not angry with thee, only be gone, now that I have found thee what thou art. 15. Is any man so foolish as to fear change, to which all things that once were not owe their being? And what is it that is more pleasing and more familiar to the nature of the universe? How couldst thou thyself use thy ordinary hot baths, should not the wood that eateth them first be changed? How couldst thou revive any nourishment from those things that thou hast eaten, if they should not be changed? Can anything else almost that is useful and profitable be brought to pass without change? How then dost not thou perceive that for thee also, by death, to come to change is a thing of the very same nature, and as necessary for the nature of the universe? 16. Through the substance of the universe, as through a torrent pass all particular bodies, being all of the same nature, and all joint workers with the universe itself, as in one of our bodies, so many members among themselves. How many such as Chrysippus? How many such as Socrates? How many such as Epictetus hath the age of the world long since swallowed up and devoured? Let this, be it men or businesses, that thou hast occasion to think of, to the end that thy thoughts be not distracted, and thy mind too earnestly set upon anything. Upon every such occasion presently come to thy mind, of all my thoughts and cares, one only thing shall be the object, that I myself do nothing which to the proper constitution of man, either in regard of the thing itself, or in regard of the manner, or of the time of doing, is contrary. The time when thou shalt have forgotten all things is at hand, and that time also is at hand, when thou thyself shalt be forgotten by all. Whilst thou art, apply thyself to that, especially which unto man, as he is a mart, is most proper and agreeable, and that is, for a man even to love them that transgress against him. This shall be, if at the same time that any such thing doth happen, thou call to mind that they are thy kinsmen, that is through ignorance and against their wills that they sin, and that within a very short while after, both thou and he shall be no more. But above all things, that he hath not done thee any hurt, for that by him thy mind and understanding is not made worse or more vile than it was before. 17. The nature of the universe, of the common substance of all things, as it were of so much wax, hath now perchance formed a horse, and then, destroying that figure, hath new tempered and fashioned the matter of it into the form and substance of a tree, and that again into the form and substance of a man, and then that again into some other. Now every one of these doth subsist but for a very little while. As for dissolution, if it be no grievous thing to the chest or trunk to be joined together, why should it be more grievous to be put asunder? 18. An angry countenance is much against nature, and it is oftentimes the proper countenance of them that are at the point of death. But were it so, that all anger and passion were so thoroughly quenched in thee, that it were altogether impossible to kindle it any more, yet herein must not thou rest satisfied, but further endeavor, by good consequence of true ratiocination, perfectly to conceive and understand that all anger and passion is against reason. For if thou shalt not be sensible of thine innocence, if that also shall be gone from thee, the comfort of a good conscience, that thou dost all things according to reason, what shouldest thou live any longer for? All things that now thou seest are but for a moment. That nature, by which all things in the world are administered, will soon bring change and alteration upon them, and then of their substances make other things like unto them, and then soon after others again of the matter and substance of these, that so by these means the world may still appear fresh and new. 19. Whensoever any man doth trespass against other, presently consider with thyself what it was that he did suppose to be good, what to be evil, what he did trespass. For this, when thou knowest, thou wilt pity him, thou wilt have no occasion either to wonder or to be angry. For either thou thyself dost yet live in that error and ignorance, as that thou dost suppose either that very thing that he doth, or some other like worldly thing to be good. And so thou art bound to pardon him, if he have done that which thou in the like case wouldst have done thyself. Or if so be that thou dost not any more suppose the same things to be good or evil that he doth, how canst thou but be gentle unto him that is in an error? 20. Fancy not thyself things future, as though they were present, but of those that are present, take some aside, that thou takest most benefit of, and consider of them particularly, how wonderfully thou wouldst want them, if they were not present. But take heed withal, lest that whilst thou dost settle thy contentment in things present, thou grow in time so to overprize them, as that the want of them, whensoever it shall so fall out, should be a trouble and a vexation unto thee. Wind up thyself into thyself. Such is the nature of thy reasonable commanding part, as that if it exercise justice, and have by that means tranquillity within itself, it doth rest fully satisfied with itself, without any other thing. 21. Wipe off all opinion. Stay the force and violence of unreasonable lusts and affections. Circumscribe the present time. Examine whatsoever it be that is happened, either to thyself or to another. Divide all present objects, either in that which is formal or material. Think of the last hour. That which thy neighbor hath committed, where the guilt of it lieth, there let it rest. Examine in order whatsoever is spoken. Let thy mind penetrate both into the effects and into the causes. Rejoice thyself with true simplicity and modesty, and that all middle things between virtue and vice are indifferent unto thee. Finally, love mankind, obey God. 22. All things, saith he, are by certain order and appointment. And what if the elements only? It will suffice to remember that all things in general are by certain order and appointment, or if it be but few. And as concerning death, that either dispersion, or the atoms, or annihilation, or extinction, or translation will ensue. And as concerning pain, that that which is intolerable is soon ended by death, and that which holds long must needs be tolerable, and that the mind in the meantime, which is all in all, may by way of interclusion or interception, by stopping all manner of commerce and sympathy with the body, still retain its own tranquillity. Thy understanding is not made worse by it. As for those parts that suffer, let them, if they can, declare their grief themselves. As for praise and commendation, view their mind and understanding, what estate they are in, what kind of things they fly, and what things they seek after. And that as in the seaside, whatsoever was before to be seen is by the continual succession of new heaps of sand cast up upon another, soon hid and covered. So in this life, all former things by those which immediately succeed. 23. Out of Plato. He then whose mind is endowed with true magnanimity, who hath accustomed himself to the contemplation both of all times, and of all things in general, can this mortal life, thinkest thou, seem any great matter unto him? It is not possible, answered he. Then neither will such a one account death a grievous thing, by no means. 24. Out of Antisthenes. It is a princely thing to do well, and to be ill spoken of. It is a shameful thing that the face should be subject unto the mind, to be put into what shape it will, and to be dressed by it as it will, and that the mind should not bestow so much care upon herself as to fashion herself, and to dress herself as best becometh her. 25. Out of several poets and comics. It will but little avail thee to turn thine anger and indignation upon the things themselves that have fallen across unto thee. For as for them, they are not sensible of it, etc. thou shalt but make thyself a laughing stock, both unto the gods and men, etc. Our life is reaped like a ripe ear of corn. One is yet standing and another is down, etc. But if so be that I and my children be neglected by the gods, there is some reason even for that, etc. As long as right and equity is of my side, etc., not to lament with them, not to tremble, etc. 26. Out of Plato. My anger, full of justice and equity, should be this: thy speech is not right, O man. If thou supposest that he that is of any worth at all should apprehend either life or death as a matter of great hazard or danger, and should not make this rather his only care, to examine his own actions, whether just or unjust, whether actions of a good or of a wicked man, etc. For thus in very truth stands the case, O ye men of Athens. What place or station soever a man either hath chosen to himself, judging it best for himself, or is by lawful authority put and settled in, therein do I think, all appearance of danger notwithstanding, that he should continue, as one who feareth neither death nor anything else, so much as he feareth to commit anything that is vicious and shameful, etc. But, O noble sir, consider, I pray, whether true generosity and true happiness do not consist in somewhat else rather than in the preservation either of our or other men's lives. For it is not the part of a man that is a man indeed, to desire to live long, or to make much of his life whilst he liveth, but rather he that is such will in these things wholly refer himself unto the gods, and believing that which every woman can tell him, that no man can escape death. The only thing that he takes thought and care for is this, that what time he liveth, he may live as well and as virtuously as he can possibly, etc. To look about, and with the eyes to follow the course of the stars and planets, as though thou wouldst run with them, and to mind perpetually the several changes of the elements, one into another. For such fancies and imaginations help much to purge away the dross and filth of this our earthly life, etc. That also is a fine passage of Plato's, where he speaketh of worldly things in these words: thou must also, as from some higher place, look down, as it were, upon the things of this world, as flocks, armies, husbandmen's labors, marriages, divorces, generations, deaths, the tumults of courts and places of judicatures, desert places, the several nations of barbarians, public festivals, mournings, fairs, markets, how all things upon earth are pell-mell, and how miraculously things contrary one to another concur to the beauty and perfection of this universe. 27. To look back upon things of former ages, as upon the manifold changes and conversions of several monarchies and commonwealths. We may also foresee things future, for they shall all be of the same kind. Neither is it possible that they should leave the tune, or break the concert that is now begun, as it were, by these things that are now done and brought to pass in the world. It comes all to one, therefore, whether a man be a spectator of the things of this life but 40 years, or whether he see them 10,000 years together, or what shall he see more? And as for those parts that came from the earth, they shall return unto the earth again. And those that came from heaven, they also shall return unto those heavenly places, whether it be a mere dissolution or unbinding of the manifold intricacies and entanglements of the confused atoms, or some such dispersion of the simple and incorruptible elements. With meat and drinks and divers charms, they seek to divert the channel, that they might not die. Yet must we needs endure the blast of wind that cometh from above, though we toil and labor never so much. 28. He hath a stronger body, and is a better wrestler than I. What then? Is he more bountiful? Is he more modest? Doth he bear all adverse chances with more equanimity, or with his neighbor's offenses with more meekness and gentleness than I? 29. Where the matter may be affected agreeably to that reason, which both unto the gods and men is common, there can be no just cause of grief or sorrow. For where the fruit and benefit of an action, well begun and prosecuted according to the proper constitution of man, may be reaped and obtained, or is sure and certain, it is against reason that any damage should there be suspected. In all places, and at all times, it is in thy power religiously to embrace whatsoever by God's appointment is happened unto thee, and justly to converse with those men whom thou hast to do with, and accurately to examine every fancy that presents itself, that nothing may slip and steal in, before thou hast rightly apprehended the true nature of it. 30. Look not about upon other men's minds and understandings, but look right on forwards with their nature, both that of the universe, in those things that happen unto thee, and thine in particular, in those things that are done by thee, doth lead and direct thee. Now every one is bound to do that which is consequent and agreeable to that end which by his true natural constitution he was ordained unto. As for all other things, they are ordained for the use of reasonable creatures. As in all things we see that which is worse and inferior is made for that which is better. Reasonable creatures, they are ordained one for another. That therefore which is chief in every man's constitution is, that he intend the common good. The second is, that he yield not to any lusts and motions of the flesh, for it is the part and privilege of the reasonable and intellective faculty that she can so bound herself, as that neither the sensitive nor the appetitive faculties may not anyways prevail upon her, for both these are brutish, and therefore over both she challengeth mastery, and cannot anyways endure, if in her right temper, to be subject unto either. And this indeed most justly, for by nature she was ordained to command all in the body. The third thing proper to man by his constitution is to avoid all rashness and precipitancy, and not to be subject to error. To these things, then, let the mind apply herself and go straight on, without any distraction about other things, and she hath her end, and by consequent her happiness. 31. As one who had lived, and were now to die by right, whatsoever is yet remaining, bestow that wholly as a gracious overplus upon the virtuous life. Love and affect that only, whatsoever it be that happeneth, and is by the fates appointed unto thee. For what can be more reasonable? And as anything doth happen unto thee by way of cross or calamity, call to mind presently, and set before thine eyes the examples of some other men, to whom the self-same thing did once happen likewise. Well, what did they? They grieved, they wandered, they complained. And where are they now? All dead and gone. Wilt thou also be like one of them? Or rather leaving to men of the world, whose life both in regard of themselves and them that they converse with is nothing but mere mutability, or men of as fickle minds as fickle bodies, ever changing and soon change themselves. Let it be thine only care and study, how to make a right use of all such accidents. For there is good use to be made of them, and they will prove fit matter for thee to work upon, if it shall be both thy care and thy desire, that whatsoever thou dost, thou thyself mayst like and approve thyself for it. And both these, see, that thou remember well, according as the diversity of the matter of the action that thou art about shall require. Look within. Within is the fountain of all good. Such a fountain, where springing waters can never fail. So thou dig still deeper and deeper. 32. Thou must use thyself also to keep thy body fixed and steady, free from all loose, fluctuant, either motion or posture. And as upon thy face and looks, thy mind hath easily power over them to keep them to that which is grave and decent, so let it challenge the same power over the whole body also, but also observe all things in this kind, as that it be without any manner of affectation. 33. The art of true living in this world is more like a wrestler's than a dancer's practice. For in this they both agree, to teach a man whatsoever falls upon him, that he may be ready for it, and that nothing may cast him down. 34. Thou must continually ponder and consider with thyself what manner of men they be, and for their minds and understandings, what is their present estate, whose good word and testimony thou dost desire. For then neither wilt thou see cause to complain of them that offend against their wills, or find any want of their applause, if once thou dost but penetrate into the true force and ground both of their opinions and of their desires. No soul, saith he, is willingly bereft of the truth, and by consequent, neither of justice or temperance or kindness and mildness, nor of anything that is of the same kind. It is most needful that thou shouldst always remember this, for so shalt thou be far more gentle and moderate towards all men. 35. What pain soever thou art in, Let this presently come to thy mind, that it is not a thing whereof thou needst to be ashamed, neither is it a thing whereby thy understanding, that hath the government of all, can be made worse. For neither in regard of the substance to it, nor in regard of the end of it, which is to intend the common good, can it alter and corrupt it. This also of Epicurus mayest thou in most pains find some help of, that it is neither intolerable nor eternal, so thou keepst thyself to the true bounds and limits of reason, and give not way to opinion. This also thou must consider, that many things there be, which oftentimes unsensibly trouble and vex thee, as not armed against them with patience, because they go not ordinarily under the name of pains, which in very deed are of the same nature as pain, as to slumber unquietly, to suffer heat, to want appetite. When therefore any of these things make thee discontented, check thyself with these words. Now hath pain given thee the foil, thy courage hath failed thee. 36. Take heed lest at any time thou stand so affected, though toward unnatural evil men, as ordinary men are commonly one towards another. 37. How know we whether Socrates were so eminent indeed, and of so extraordinary a disposition? For that he died more gloriously, that he disputed with the sophists more subtly, that he watched in the frost more assiduously, that being commanded to fetch innocent Salaminius, he refused to do it more generously. All this will not serve, nor that he walked on the streets with much gravity and majesty, as was objected unto him by his adversaries, which nevertheless a man may well doubt of, whether were it so or no, or, which above all the rest, if so be that it were true, a man would well consider of, whether commendable or discommendable. The thing, therefore, that we must inquire into is this: what manner of soul Socrates had, whether his disposition was such as that all that he stood upon and sought after in this world was barely this, that he might ever carry himself justly towards men, and holily towards the gods, neither vex him himself to no purpose at the wickedness of others, nor yet condescending to any man's evil fact or evil intention, through either fear or engagement of friendship, whether of those things that happen unto him by God's appointment. He neither did wonder at any when it did happen, or thought it intolerable in the trial of it. And lastly, whether he never did suffer his mind to sympathize with the senses and affections of the body. For we must not think that nature hath so mixed and tempered it with the body, as that she hath not power to circumscribe herself, and by herself to intend her own ends and occasions. 38. For it is a thing very possible that a man should be a very divine man, and yet be altogether unknown. This thou must ever be mindful of, as of this also, that a man's true happiness doth consist in very few things, and that although thou dost despair that thou shalt ever be a good either logician or naturalist, Yet thou art never the further off by it from being either liberal or modest or charitable or obedient unto God. 39. Free from all compulsion, in all cheerfulness and alacrity, thou mayest run out of thy time, though men should exclaim against thee, never so much, and the wild beasts should pull in sunder the poor members of thy pampered mass of flesh. Or what in either of these, or the like cases, should hinder the mind to retain her own rest and tranquillity, consisting both in the right judgment of those things that happen unto her, and in the ready use of all present matters and occasions, so that her judgment may say to that which is befallen her by way of cross, this thou art in very deed, and according to thy true nature, notwithstanding that in the judgment of opinion thou dost appear otherwise, and her discretion to the present object. Thou art that which I sought for, or whatsoever it be that is now present, shall ever be embraced by me as a fit and seasonable object, both for my reasonable faculty and for my sociable and charitable inclination to work upon. And that which is principal in this matter is it that may be referred either unto the praise of God or to the good of men, or either unto God or man. Whatsoever it is that doth happen in the world hath in the ordinary course of nature its proper reference. Neither is there anything that in regard to nature is either new, or reluctant, or intractable, but all things both usual and easy. 40. Then hath a man attained to the estate of perfection in his life and conversation, when he so spends every day, as if it were his last day, never hot and vehement in his affections, nor yet so cold and stupid as one that had no sense, and free from all manner of dissimulation. 41. Can the gods, who are immortal, for the continuance of so many ages, bear without indignation with such and so many sinners as have ever been, yea, not only so, but also take such care for them that they want nothing? And dost thou so grievously take on, as one that could bear with them no longer? Thou that art but for a moment of time, yea, thou that art one of those sinners thyself, a very ridiculous thing it is that any man should dispense with vice and wickedness in himself, which is in his power to restrain, and should go about to suppress it in others, which is altogether impossible. 42. What object soever our reasonable and sociable faculty doth meet with, that affords nothing either for the satisfaction of reason or for the practice of charity, she worthily doth think unworthy of herself. 43. When thou hast done well, and another is benefited by thy action, must thou like a very fool look for a third thing besides, as that it may appear unto others also that thou hast done well, or that thou mayest in time receive one good turn for another? No man used to be weary of that which is beneficial unto him, but every action according to nature is beneficial. Be not weary then of doing that which is beneficial unto thee, whilst it is so unto others. 44. The nature of the universe did once certainly before it was created, whatsoever it hath done since, deliberate, and so resolve upon the creation of the world. Now, since that time, whatsoever it is that is and happens in the world is either but a consequent of that one and first deliberation, or if so be that this ruling rational part of the world takes any thought and care of things particular, they are surely his reasonable and principal creatures, that are the proper object of his particular care and providence. This often thought upon will much conduce to thy tranquillity. The Eighth Book. 1. This also, among other things, may serve to keep thee from vainglory. If thou shalt consider that thou art now altogether incapable of the commendation of one who all his life long, or from his youth at least, hath lived a philosopher's life, for both unto others, and to thyself especially, it is well known that thou hast done many things contrary to that perfection of life. Thou hast therefore been confounded in thy course, and henceforth it will be hard for thee to recover the title and credit of a philosopher. And to it also is thy calling and profession repugnant. If therefore thou dost truly understand what it is that is of moment indeed, as for thy fame and credit, take no thought or care for that. Let it suffice thee if all the rest of thy life, be it more or less, thou shalt live as thy nature requireth, or according to the true and natural end of thy making. Take pains, therefore, to know what it is that thy nature requireth, and let nothing else distract thee. Thou hast already had sufficient experience, that of those many things that hitherto thou hast erred and wandered about, thou couldst not find happiness in any of them, not in syllogisms and logical subtleties, not in wealth, not in honor and reputation, not in pleasure, in none of all these. Wherein then is it to be found? In the practice of those things, which the nature of man, as he is a man, doth require. How then shall he do those things, if his dogmata, or moral tenets and opinions, from which all motions and actions do proceed, be right and true? Which be those dogmata? Those that concern that which is good or evil, as that there is nothing truly good and beneficial unto man, but that which makes him just, temperate, courageous, liberal, and that there is nothing truly evil and hurtful unto man, but that which causeth the contrary effects. 2. Upon every action that thou art about, put this question to thyself: how will this, when it is done, agree with me? Shall I have no occasion to repent of it? Yet a very little while, and I am dead and gone, and all things are at end. What then do I care for more than this, that my present action, whatsoever it be, may be the proper action of one that is reasonable, whose end is the common good, who in all things is ruled and governed by the same law of right and reason by which God himself is. 3. Alexander, Caius, Pompeius, what are these to Diogenes, Heraclitus, and Socrates? These penetrated into the true nature of things, into all causes and all subjects, and upon these did they exercise their power and authority. But as for those, as the extent of their error was, so far did their slavery extend. For what they have done, they will still do, although thou shouldst hang thyself. First, let it not trouble thee, for all things, both good and evil, come to pass according to the nature and general condition of the universe, and within a very little while all things will be at an end. No man will be remembered, as now of Africanus, for example, and Augustus, it is already come to pass. Then secondly, fix thy mind upon the thing itself, look into it, and remembering thyself, that thou art bound nevertheless to be a good man. And when it is that thy nature requireth of thee, as thou art a man, be not diverted from what thou art about, and speak that which seemeth unto thee most just. Only speak it kindly, modestly, and without hypocrisy. 5. That which the nature of the universe doth busy herself about is that which is here, to transfer it thither, to change it, and thence again to take it away, and to carry it to another place, so that thou needst not fear any new thing, for all things are usual and ordinary, and all things are disposed by equality. 6. Every particular nature hath content, when in its own proper course it speeds. A reasonable nature doth then speed, when first in matter of fancies and imaginations. It gives no consent to that which is either false or uncertain. Secondly, when in all its motions and resolutions it takes its level at the common good only, and that it desireth nothing, and flieth from nothing, but what is in its own power to compass or avoid. And lastly, when it willingly and gladly embraceth whatsoever is dealt and appointed unto it by the common nature. For it is part of it, even as the nature of any one leaf is part of the common nature of all plants and trees. But that the nature of a leaf is part of a nature both unreasonable and unsensible, and which in its proper end may be hindered, or which is servile and slavish, whereas the nature of man is part of a common nature which cannot be hindered, and which is both reasonable and just. From whence also it is, that according to the worth of everything, she doth make such equal distribution of all things, as of duration, substance, form, operation, and of events and accidents. But herein consider not whether thou shalt find this equality in everything, absolutely and by itself, but whether in all the particulars of some one thing taken together, and compared with all the particulars of some other thing, and them together likewise. 7. Thou hast no time nor opportunity to read. What then? Hast thou not time and opportunity to exercise thyself, not to wrong thyself, to strive against all carnal pleasures and pains, and to get the upper hand of them, to contemn honor and vainglory, and not only not to be angry with them, whom towards thee thou dost find unsensible and unthankful, but also to have a care of them still, and of their welfare. 8. Forbear henceforth to complain of the trouble of a courtly life, either in public before others, or in private by thyself. 9. Repentance is an inward and self-reprehension for the neglect or omission of somewhat that was profitable. Now whatsoever is good is also profitable, and it is the part of an honest virtuous man to set by it, and to make reckoning of it accordingly. But never did any honest virtuous man repent of the neglect or omission of any carnal pleasure. No carnal pleasure then is either good or profitable. 10. This, what is it in itself, and by itself, according to its proper constitution? What is the substance of it? What is the matter or proper use? What is the form or efficient cause? What is it for in this world, and how long will it abide? Thus must thou examine all things that present themselves unto thee. 11. When thou art hard to be stirred up, and awaked out of thy sleep, admonish thyself and call to mind that to perform actions tending to the common good is that which thine own proper constitution, and that which the nature of man do require. But to sleep is common to unreasonable creatures also. And what more proper and natural, yea, what more kind and pleasing than that which is according to nature? 12. As every fancy and imagination presents itself unto thee, consider, if it be possible, the true nature and the proper qualities of it, and reason with thyself about it. 13. At thy first encounter with any one, say presently to thyself, this man, what are his opinions concerning that which is good or evil, as concerning pain, pleasure, and the causes of both, concerning honor and dishonor, concerning life and death, thus and thus. Now, if it be no wonder that a man should have such and such opinions, how can it be a wonder that he should do such and such things? I will remember then that he cannot but do as he doth, holding those opinions that he doth. Remember that as it is a shame for any man to wonder that a fig tree should bear figs, so also to wonder that the world should bear anything, whatsoever it is, which in the ordinary course of nature it may bear. To a physician also, and to a pilot, it is a shame either for the one to wonder that such and such a one should have an ague, and for the other that the winds should prove contrary. 14. Remember that to change thy mind upon occasion, and to follow him that is able to rectify thee, is equally ingenious, as to find out at the first what is right and just without help. For of thee nothing is required, that is beyond the extent of thine own deliberation and judgment, and of thine own understanding. 15. If it were thine act, and in thine own power, wouldst thou do it? If it were not, whom dost thou accuse? The atoms or the gods? For to do either is the part of a madman. Thou must therefore blame nobody, but if it be in thy power, redress what is amiss. If it be not, to what end is it to complain? For nothing should be done but to some certain end. 16. Whatsoever dieth and falleth, however and wheresoever it die and fall, it cannot fall out of the world. Here it have its abode and change. Here also shall it have its dissolution into its proper elements. The same are the world's elements, and the elements of which thou dost consist. And they, when they are changed, they murmur not. Why shouldest thou? 17. Whatsoever is, was made for something, as a horse, a vine. Why wonderest thou? The sun itself will say of itself, I was made for something, and so hath every god its proper function. What then were thou made for? To disport and delight thyself? See how even common sense and reason cannot brook it. 18. Nature hath its end as well in the end, and final consummation of anything that is, as in the beginning and continuation of it. 19. As one that tosseth up a ball, and what is a ball the better, if the motion of it be upwards, or the worse if it be downwards, or if it chance to fall upon the ground? So for the bubble, if it continue, what is it the better? And if it dissolve, what is it the worse? And so is it of a candle too. And so must thou reason with thyself, both in matter of fame and in matter of death. For as for the body itself, the subject of death, wouldest thou know the vileness of it? Turn it about that thou mayest behold it, the worst sides upward as well. As in its more ordinary pleasant shape, how does it look? When it is old and withered, when sick and pained, when in the act of lust and fornication. And as for fame, this life is short. Both he that praiseth and he that is praised, he that remembers and he that is remembered, will soon be dust and ashes. Besides, it is but in one corner of this part of the world that thou art praised. And yet, in this corner, thou hast not the joint praises of all men, no nor scarce of any one constantly. And yet the whole earth itself, what is it but as one point in regard of the whole world? 20. That which must be the subject of thy consideration is either the matter itself, or the dogma, or the operation, or the true sense and signification. 21. Most justly have these things happened unto thee, Why dost not thou amend? Oh, but thou hadst rather become good tomorrow than to be so today. 22. Shall I do it? I will. So the end of my action be to do good unto men. Doth anything by way of cross or adversity happen unto me, I accept it with reference unto the gods and their providence, the fountain of all things, from which whatsoever come to pass doth hang and depend. 23. By one action judge of the rest. This bathing, which usually takes up so much of our time, what is it? Oil, sweat, filth, or the swords of the body, an excrementitious viscosity, the excrements of oil and other ointments used about the body, and mixed with the swords of the body, all base and loathsome, and such almost is every part of our life and every worldly object. 24. Lucilla buried Verus. Then was Lucilla herself buried by others. So Secunda Maximus, then Secunda herself. So Epitincanus, Diotimus, then Epitincanus himself. So Antoninus Pius, Faustina his wife, then Antoninus himself. This is the course of the world. First Celer, Adrianus, then Adrianus himself. And those austere ones, those that foretold other men's deaths, those that were so proud and stately, where are they now? Those austere ones, I mean, such as were Charax, and Demetrius the Platonic, and Eudaemon, and others like unto those. They were all but for one day, all dead and gone long since. Some of them no sooner dead than forgotten. Others soon turned into fables. Of others, even that which was fabulous is now long since forgotten. This thereafter thou must remember, that whatsoever thou art compounded of shall soon be dispersed, and that thy life and breath, or thy soul, shall either be no more, or shall be translated and appointed to some certain place and station. 25. The true joy of a man is to do that which properly belongs unto a man. That which is most proper unto a man is, first, to be kindly affected towards them that are of the same kind and nature as he is himself, to contemn all sensual motions and appetites, to discern rightly all plausible fancies and imaginations, to contemplate the nature of the universe, both it and things that are done in it. In which kind of contemplation three several relations are to be observed. The first, to the apparent secondary cause. The second, to the first original cause, God, from whom originally proceeds whatsoever doth happen in the world. The third and last, to them that we live and converse with, what use may be made of it to their use and benefit. 26. If pain be an evil, either it is in regard of the body, and that cannot be because the body of itself is altogether insensible, or in regard of the soul, But it is in the power of the soul to preserve her own peace and tranquility, and not to suppose that pain is evil. For all judgment and deliberation, all prosecution, all aversation is from within, whither the sense of evil, except it be led in by opinion, cannot penetrate. 27. Wipe off all idle fancies, and say unto thyself incessantly, Now, if I will, it is in my power to keep out of this my soul all wickedness, all lust and concupiscences, all trouble and confusion, but on the contrary, to behold and consider all things according to their true nature, and to carry myself towards everything according to its true worth. Remember then, this is thy power, that nature hath give thee. 28. Whether thou speak in the Senate, or whether thou speak to any particular, let thy speech be always grave and modest. But thou must not openly and vulgarly observe that sound and exact form of speaking, concerning that which is truly good and truly civil. The vanity of the world and of worldly men, which otherwise truth and reason doth prescribe. 29. Augustus his court, his wife, his daughter, his nephews, his sons-in-law, his sister Agrippa, his kinsmen, his domestics, his friends, Arius, Maecenas, his slayer of beasts for sacrifice and divination. There thou hast the death of a whole court together. Proceed now on to the rest that have been since that of Augustus. Hath death dwelt with them otherwise, though so many and so stately whilst they lived, than it doth use to deal with any one particular man? Consider now the death of a whole kindred and family, as of that of the Pompeys, as that also that useth to be written upon some monuments, he was the last of his own kindred. Oh, what care did his predecessors take, that they might leave a successor! Yet behold, at last one or the other must of necessity be the last. Here again, therefore, consider the death of a whole kindred. 30. Contract thy whole life to the measure and proportion of one single action. And if in every particular action thou dost perform what is fitting to the utmost of thy power, let it suffice thee. And who can hinder thee, but that thou mayest perform what is fitting? But there may be some outward let and impediment, not any, that can hinder thee, but that whatsoever thou dost, thou may do it justly, temperately, and with the praise of God. Yea, but there may be somewhat, whereby some operation or other of thine may be hindered. And then, with that very thing that doth hinder, thou mayest be well pleased. And so by this gentle and equanimous conversion of thy mind unto that which may be, instead of that which is at first thou didst intend, in the room of that former action there succeedeth another, which agrees as well with this contraction of thy life that we now speak of. 31. Receive temporal blessings without ostentation, when they are sent, and thou shalt be able to part with them with all readiness and facility when they are taken from thee again. 32. If ever thou sawest either a hand, or a foot, or a head lying by itself, in some place or other, as cut off from the rest of the body, such must thou conceive him to make himself, as much as in him lieth, that either is offended with anything that is happened, whatsoever it be, and as it were divides himself from it, or that commits anything against the natural law of mutual correspondence and society among men, or he that commits any act of uncharitableness, whosoever thou art such, thou art cast forth, I know not whither, out of the general unity, which is according to nature. Thou wert born indeed apart, but now thou hast cut thyself off. However, herein is matter of joy and exultation, that thou mayst be united again. God hath not granted it unto any other part, that once separated and cut off, it might be reunited and come together again. But, behold, that goodness, how great and immense it is, which hath so much esteemed man, as at first he was so made, that he needed not, except he would himself, have divided himself from the whole. So once divided and cut off, it hath so provided and ordered it, that if he would himself, he might return and grow together again, and be admitted into its former rank and place of apart, as he was before. 33. As almost all her other faculties and properties the nature of the universe hath imparted unto every reasonable creature, so this in particular we have received from her, that as whatsoever doth oppose itself unto her, and doth withstand her in her purposes and intentions, she doth, though against its will and intention, bring it about to herself, to serve herself of it in the execution of her own destinated ends. And so by this, though not intended cooperation of it with herself, make it part of herself, whether it will or no. So may every reasonable creature, what crosses and impediments soever it meets within the course of this mortal life, it may use them as fit and proper objects to the furtherance of whatsoever it intended and absolutely proposed unto itself as its natural end and happiness. 34. Let not the general representation unto thyself of the wretchedness of this our mortal life trouble thee. Let not thy mind wander up and down, and heap together in her thoughts the many troubles and grievous calamities which thou art as subject unto as any other. But as everything in particular doth happen, put this question unto thyself, and say, what is it that in this present matter seem unto thee so intolerable? For thou wilt be ashamed to confess it. Then upon this presently call to mind, that neither that which is future, nor that which is past can hurt thee, but that only which is present. And that also is much lessened, if thou dost lightly circumscribe it. And then check thy mind, if for so little a while, a mere instant, it cannot hold out with patience. 35. What? Are either Panthea or Pergamus abiding to this day by their masters' tombs? Or either Chabrias or Diotimus by that of Adrianus? Oh, foolery! For what if they did? Would their masters be sensible of it? Or if sensible, would they be glad of it? Or if glad, were these immortal? Was it not appointed unto them, both men and women, to become old in time, and then to die? And these once dead, what would become of these former? And when all is done, what is all this for, but for a mere bag of blood and corruption? 36. If thou beest quick-sighted, be so in matter of judgment, and best discretion, saith he. 37. In the whole constitution of man, I see not any virtue contrary to justice, whereby it may be resisted and opposed, but one whereby pleasure and voluptuousness may be resisted and opposed, I see continence. 38. If thou canst but withdraw conceit and opinion concerning that which may seem hurtful and offensive, thou thyself art as safe may be. Thou thyself. And who is that? Thy reason. Yea, but I am not reason. Well, be it so. However, let not thy reason and understanding admit of grief. And if there be anything in thee that is grieved, let that, whatsoever it be, conceive its own grief, if it can. 39. That which is a hindrance of the senses is an evil to the sensitive nature. That which is a hindrance of the appetitive and prosecutive faculty is an evil to the sensitive nature. As of the sensitive, so of the vegetative constitution, whatsoever is a hindrance unto it, is also in that respect an evil unto the same. And so likewise, whatsoever is a hindrance unto the mind and understanding, must needs be the proper evil of the reasonable nature. Now, apply all those things unto thyself. Do either pain or pleasure seize on thee? Let the senses look to that. Hast thou met with some obstacle or other in thy purpose and intention? If thou didst propose without due reservation and exception, now hath thy reasonable part received a blow indeed. But if in general thou didst propose unto thyself whatsoever might be, thou art not thereby either hurt, nor properly hindered. For in those things that properly belong unto the mind, she cannot be hindered by any man. It is not fire, nor iron, nor the power of a tyrant, nor the power of a slandering tongue, nor anything else that can penetrate into her. 40. If once round and solid, there is no fear that ever it will change. 41. Why should I grieve myself, who never did willingly grieve any other? One thing rejoices one, and another thing another. As for me, this is my joy, if my understanding be right and sound, as neither averse from any man, nor refusing any of those things which as a man I am subject unto. If I can look upon all things in the world meekly and kindly, accept all things, and carry myself towards everything according to the true worth of the thing itself. 42. This time that is now present, bestow thou upon thyself. They that rather hunt for fame after death do not consider that those men that shall be hereafter will be even such as these whom now they can so hardly bear with. And besides, they also will be mortal men. But to consider the thing in itself, if so many with so many voices shall make such and such a sound, or shall have such and such an opinion concerning thee, what is it to thee? 43. Take me, and throw me where thou wilt. I am indifferent. For there also I shall have that spirit which is within me proprietous, that is well pleased and fully contented both in that constant disposition and with those particular actions, which to its own proper constitution are suitable and agreeable. 44. Is this then a thing of that worth, that for it my soul should suffer and become worse than it was, as either basely dejected or disordinately affected, or confounded within itself, or terrified? What can there be that thou shouldest so much esteem? 45. Nothing can happen unto thee, which is not incidental unto thee, as thou art a man. As nothing can happen either to an ox, a vine, or to a stone, which is not incidental unto them, unto every one in his own kind. If therefore nothing can happen unto anything, which is not both usual and natural, why art thou displeased? Sure, the common nature of all would not bring anything upon any that were intolerable. If therefore it be a thing external that causes thy grief, know that it is not that properly that doth cause it, but thine own conceit and opinion concerning the thing, which thou mayest rid thyself of when thou wilt. But if it be somewhat that is amiss in thine own disposition that doth grieve thee, mayest thou not rectify thy moral tenets and opinions? But if it grieve thee, then thou dost not perform that which seemeth unto thee right and just. Why dost not thou choose rather to perform it than to grieve? But somewhat that is stronger than thyself doth hinder thee. Let it not grieve thee then, if it be not thy fault that the thing is not performed. Yea, but it is a thing of that nature as that thy life is not worth the while except it may be performed. If it be so, upon condition that thou be kindly and lovingly disposed towards all men, thou mayest be gone. For even then, as much as at any time, art thou in a very good estate of performance, when thou dost die in charity with those that are an obstacle unto thy performance. 46. Remember that thy mind is of that nature, as that it becometh altogether unconquerable. When once recollected in herself, she seeks no other content than this, that she cannot be forced. Yea, though it so fall out, that it be even against reason itself, that it doth bandy. How much less when by the help of reason she is able to judge of things with discretion. And therefore let thy chef fort and place of defense be a mind free from passions, a stronger place, whereunto to make his refuge, and so to become impregnable, and better fortified than this hath no man. He that seeth not this is unlearned. He that seeth it, and betaketh not himself to this place of refuge, is unhappy. 47. Keep thyself to the first bare and naked apprehensions of things, as they present themselves unto thee, and add not unto them. It is reported unto thee that such a one speaketh ill of thee. Well, that he speaketh ill of thee, so much is reported. But that thou art hurt thereby is not reported. That is the addition of opinion, which thou must exclude. I see that my child is sick, that he is sick, I see, but that he is in danger of his life also, I see it not. Thus, thou must use to keep thyself to the first motions and apprehensions of things, as they present themselves outwardly, and add not unto them from within thyself through mere conceit and opinion, or rather add unto them, but as one that understandeth the true nature of all things that happen in the world. 48. Is the cucumber bitter? Set it away. Brambles are in the way? Avoid them. Let this suffice. Add not presently speaking unto thyself, what serve these things for in the world. For this, one that is acquainted with the mysteries of nature will laugh at thee for it, as a carpenter would, or a shoemaker, if meeting in either of their shops with some shavings, or some remnants of their work, thou shouldest blame them for it. And yet those men, it is not for want of a place where to throw them that they keep them in their shops for a while. But the nature of the universe hath no such outplace. But herein doth consist the wonder of her art and skill, that she having once circumscribed herself within some certain bounds and limits, whatsoever is within her that seems either corrupted, or old, or unprofitable, she can change it into herself, and of these very things can make new things, so that she needeth not seek elsewhere out of herself either for a new supply of matter and substance, or for a place where to throw out whatsoever is irrecoverably putrid and corrupt. Thus she, as for place, so for matter and art, is herself sufficient unto herself. 49. Not to be slack and negligent, or loose and wanton in thy actions, nor contentious and troublesome in thy conversation, nor to rove and wander in thy fancies and imaginations, not basely to contract thy soul, nor boisterously to sally out with it, or furiously to launch out as it were, nor ever to want employment. 50. They kill me, they cut my flesh, they persecute my person with curses. What then? May not thy mind, for all this, continue pure, prudent, temperate, just, as a fountain of sweet and clear water, though she be cursed by some stander-by, yet do her springs nevertheless still run as sweet and clear as before. Yea, though either dirt or dung be thrown in, yet is it no sooner thrown than dispersed, and she cleared. She cannot be dyed or infected by it. What then must I do, that I may have within myself an overflowing fountain, and not a well? Beget thyself by continual pains and endeavors to true liberty with charity, and true simplicity and modesty. 51. He that knoweth not what the world is, knoweth not where he himself is. And he that knoweth not what the world was made for, cannot possibly know either what are the qualities, or what is the true nature of the world. Now he that in either of these is to seek for what he himself was made is ignorant also. What then dost thou think of that man who proposeth unto himself, as a matter of great moment, the noise and applause of men, who both where they are, and what they are themselves, are altogether ignorant? Dost thou desire to be commended of that man, who thrice in 1 hour perchance doth himself curse himself? Dost thou desire to please him, who pleaseth not himself? Or dost thou think that he pleaseth himself, who doth use to repent himself almost of everything that he doth? 52. Not only now henceforth to have a common breath, or to hold correspondency of breath with that air that compasseth us about, but to have a common mind, or to hold correspondency of mind also with that rational substance which compasseth all things. For that also is of itself, and of its own nature, if a man can but draw it in as he should, everywhere diffused, and passeth through all things, no less than the air doth, if a man can but suck it in. 53. Wickedness in general doth not hurt the world. Particular wickedness doth not hurt any other. Only unto him it is hurtful, whosoever he be that offends, unto whom in great favor and mercy it is granted, then whensoever he himself shall but first desire it, he may be presently delivered of it. Unto my free will, my neighbor's free will, whoever he be, as his life or his bode, is altogether indifferent. For though we are all made one for another, yet have our minds and understandings, each of them their own proper and limited jurisdiction. For else another man's wickedness might be my evil which God would not have, that it might not be in another man's power to make me unhappy, which nothing now can do but mine own wickedness. 54. The sun seemeth to be shed abroad, and indeed it is diffused, but not effused. For that diffusion of it is a tasis, or an extension. For therefore are the beams of it called actinous, from the word ekthineste, to be stretched out and extended. Now what a sunbeam is, Thou mayest know if thou observe the light of the sun, when through some narrow hole it pierceth into some room that is dark, for it is always in a direct line, and as by any solid body that it meets with in the way that is not penetrable by air, it is divided and abrupted, and yet neither slides off or falls down, but stayeth there nevertheless. Such must the diffusion in the mind be, not an effusion, but an extension. What obstacles and impediments soever she meeteth within her way, she must not violently, and by way of an impetuous onset light upon them, neither must she fall down, but she must stand, and give light unto that which doth admit of it. For as for that which doth not, it is its own fault and loss, if it bereave itself of her light. 55. He that feareth death, either feareth that he shall have no sense at all, or that his senses will not be the same. Whereas he should rather comfort himself that either no sense at all, and so no sense of evil, or if any sense, then another life, and so no death properly. 56. All men are made one for another, either then teach them better, or bear with them. 57. The motion of the mind is not as the motion of a dart. For the mind, when it is wary and cautelous, and by way of diligent circumspection, turneth herself many ways, may then as well be said to go straight on to the object, as when it useth no such circumspection. 58. To pierce and penetrate into the estate of everyone's understanding that thou hast to do with, as also to make the estate of thine own open and penetrable to any other. The ninth book. 1. He that is unjust is also impious, for the nature of the universe, having made all reasonable creatures one for another, to the end that they should do one another good, more or less according to the several persons and occasions, but in no wise hurt one another. It is manifest that he that doth transgress against this her will is guilty of impiety towards the most ancient and venerable of all the deities. For the nature of the universe is the nature the common parent of all, and therefore piously to be observed of all things that are, and that which now is, to whatsoever first was, and gave it its being, hath relation of blood and kindred. She is also called truth, and is the first cause of all truths. He therefore that willingly and wittingly doth lie, is impious in that he doth receive and so commit injustice. But he that against his will, in that he disagreeth from the nature of the universe, and in that striving with the nature of the world he doth in his particular, violate the general order of the world. For he doth no better than strive and war against it, who contrary to his own nature applieth himself to that which is contrary to truth. For nature had before furnished him with instincts and opportunities sufficient for the attainment of it, which he, having hitherto neglected, is not now able to discern that which is false from that which is true. He also that pursues after pleasures, as that which is truly good, and flies from pains, as that which is truly evil, is impious. For such a one must of necessity oftentimes accuse that common nature as distributing many things both unto the evil and unto the good, not according to the deserts of either. As unto the bad oftentimes pleasures, and the causes of pleasures, so unto the good pains, and the occasions of pains. Again, he that feareth pains and crosses in this world, feareth some of those things which some time or other must needs happen in the world, and that we have already showed to be impious. And he that pursueth after pleasures will not spare to compass his desires, to do that which is unjust, and that is manifestly impious. Now those things which unto nature are equally indifferent, for she had not created both pain and pleasure, if both had not been unto her equally indifferent. They that will live according to nature must in those things, as being of the same mind and disposition that she is, be as equally indifferent. Whosoever therefore, in either matter of pleasure and pain, death and life, honor and dishonor, which things nature in the administration of the world indifferently doth make use of, is not as indifferent. It is apparent that he is impious. When I say that common nature doth indifferently make use of them, my meaning is that they happen indifferently in the ordinary course of things, which by a necessary consequence, whether as principal or accessory, come to pass in the world, according to that first and ancient deliberation of Providence, by which she from some certain beginning did resolve upon the creation of such a world, conceiving then in her womb as it were some certain rational generative seeds and faculties of things future, whether subjects, changes, successions, both such and just so many. 2. It were indeed more happy and comfortable for a man to depart out of this world, having lived all his life long clear from all falsehood, dissimulation, voluptuousness, and pride. But if this cannot be, yet it is some comfort for a man joyfully to depart as weary, and out of love with those, rather than to desire to live, and to continue long in those wicked courses. Hath not yet experience taught thee to fly from the plague? For a far greater plague is the corruption of the mind than any certain change and distemper of the common air can be. This is a plague of creatures, as they are living creatures, but that of men, as they are men or reasonable. 3. Thou must not, in matter of death, carry thyself scornfully, but as one that is well pleased with it, as being one of those things that nature hath appointed. For what thou dost conceive of these, of a boy to become a young man, to wax old, to grow, to ripen, to get teeth, or a beard, or gray hairs to beget, to bear, or to be delivered, or what other action soever it be, that is natural unto man according to the several seasons of his life, such a thing is it also to be dissolved. It is therefore the part of a wise man in matter of death, not in any wise to carry himself either violently or proudly, but patiently to wait for it, as one of nature's operations. That with the same mind as now thou dost expect, when that which yet is but an embryo in thy wife's belly shall come forth. Thou mayest expect also when thy soul shall fall off from that outward coat or skin, wherein as a child in the belly it lieth involved and shut up. But thou desirest a more popular, and though not so direct and philosophical, yet a very powerful and penetrative recipe against the fear of death. Nothing can make thee more willing to part with thy life than if thou shalt consider both what the subjects themselves are that thou shalt part with, and what manner of disposition thou shalt no more have to do with. True it is that, offended with them thou must not be by no means, but take care of them, and meekly bear with them. However, this thou mayest remember, that whensoever it happens that thou depart, it shall not be from men that held the same opinions that thou dost. For that indeed, if it were so, is the only thing that might make thee averse from death, and willing to continue here, if it were thy hap to live with men that had obtained the same belief that thou hast. But now, what a toil it is for thee to live with men of different opinions, thou seest, so that thou hast rather occasion to say, Hasten, I thee pray, O death, lest I also in time forget myself. 4. He that sinneth, sinneth unto himself. He that is unjust hurts himself, in that he makes himself worse than he was before. Not he only that committeth, but he also that omitteth something is oftentimes unjust. 5. If my present apprehension of the object be right, and my present action charitable, and this, towards whatsoever doth proceed from God, be my present disposition, to be well pleased with it, it sufficed. 6. To wipe away fancy, to use deliberation, to quench concupiscence, to keep the mind free to herself. 7. Of all unreasonable creatures, there is but one unreasonable soul, and of all that are reasonable, but one reasonable soul, divided betwixt them all. As of all earthly things there is but one earth, and but one light that we see by, and but one air that we breathe in, as many as either breathe or see. Now, whatsoever partakes of some common thing, naturally affects and inclines unto that whereof it is part, being of one kind and nature with it. Whatsoever is earthly presseth downwards to the common earth. Whatsoever is liquid would flow together, and whatsoever is airy would be together likewise. so that without some obstacle and some kind of violence, they cannot well be kept asunder. Whatsoever is fiery doth not only by reason of the elementary fire tend upwards, but here also is so ready to join and to burn together that whatsoever doth want sufficient moisture to make resistance is easily set on fire. Whatsoever, therefore, is partaker of that reasonable common nature, naturally doth as much and more long after his own kind. For by how much in its own nature it excels all other things, by so much more is it desirous to be joined and united unto that which is of its own nature. As for unreasonable creatures, then, they had not long been, but presently begun among them swarms and flocks and broods of young ones, in a kind of mutual love and affection. For though but unreasonable, yet a kind of soul these had, and therefore was that natural desire of union more strong and intense in them, as in creatures of a more excellent nature, than either in plants or stones or trees, but among reasonable creatures begun commonwealths, friendships, families, public meetings, and even in their wars, conventions, and truces. Now among them, that were yet of a more excellent nature, as the stars and planets, though by their nature far distant one from another, yet even among them began some mutual correspondency and unity. So proper is it to excellency in a high degree to affect unity, as that even in things so far distant, it could operate unto a mutual sympathy. But now, behold, what is now come to pass. Those creatures that are reasonable are now the only creatures that have forgotten their natural affection and inclination of one towards another. Among them, alone of all other things that are of one kind, there is not to be found a general disposition to flow together. But though they fly from nature, yet are they stopped in their course and apprehended. Do they what they can, nature doth prevail. And so shalt thou confess, if thou dost observe it. For sooner mayest thou find a thing earthly, where no earthly thing is, than find a man that naturally can live by himself alone. Eight. Man, God, the world, every one in their kind, bear some fruits. All things have their proper time to bear, though by custom the word itself is in a manner yet proper unto the vine, and the like. Yet it is so nevertheless, as we have said. As for reason, that beareth both common fruit for the use of others, and peculiar, which itself doth enjoy. Reason is of a diffusive nature. What itself is in itself, it begets in others, and so doth multiply. 9. Either teach them better, if it be in thy power, or if it be not. Remember that for this use, to bear with them patiently, was mildness and goodness granted unto thee. The gods themselves are good unto such, yea, and in some things, as in matter of health, of wealth, of honor, are content often to further their endeavors. So good and gracious are they. And mightest thou not be so too? Or tell me, what doth hinder thee? 10. Labor not as one to whom it is appointed to be wretched, nor as one that either would be pitied or admired. But let this be thine only care and desire, so always and in all things to prosecute or to forbear, as the law of charity or mutual society doth require. 11. This day I did come out of all my trouble. Nay, I have cast out all my trouble. It should rather be for that which troubled thee, whatsoever it was not without anywhere that thou shouldest come out of it, but within it thine own opinions, from whence it must be cast out, before thou canst truly and constantly be at ease. 12. All those things, for matter of experience, are usual and ordinary, for their continuance, but for a day, and for their matter, most base and filthy, as they were in the days of those whom we have buried, so are they now also, and no otherwise. 13. The things themselves that affect us, they stand without doors, neither knowing anything themselves, nor able to utter anything unto others concerning themselves. What then is it that passeth verdict on them? The understanding. 14. As virtue and wickedness consist not in passion, but in action, so neither doth the good or evil of a reasonable charitable man consist in passion, but in operation and action. 15. To the stone that is cast up, when it comes down, it is no hurt unto it, as neither benefit when it doth ascend. 16. Sift their minds and understandings, and behold what men they be, whom thou dost stand in fear of what they shall judge of thee, what they themselves judge of themselves. 17. All things that are in the world are always in the estate of alteration. Thou also art in a perpetual change, yea, and under corruption too, in some part, and so is the whole world. 18. It is not thine, but another man's sin. Why should it trouble thee? Let him look to it, whose sin it is. 19. Of an operation and of a purpose there is an ending, or of an action and of a purpose we say commonly that it is at an end. From opinion also there is an absolute cessation, which is as it were the death of it. In all this there is no hurt. Apply this now to a man's age. At first a child, then a youth, then a young man, then an old man. Every change from one age to another is a kind of death. And all this while here is no matter of grief yet. Pass now unto that life first, that which thou livest under thy grandfather, then under thy mother, then under thy father. And thus, when through the whole course of thy life hitherto thou hast found and observed many alterations, many changes, many kinds of endings and cessations, put this question to thyself: what matter of grief or sorrow dost thou find in any of these? Or what dost thou suffer through any of these? If in none of these, then neither in the ending or consummation of thy whole life, which is also but a cessation and change. 20. As occasion shall require, either to thine own understanding, or to that of the universe, or to his, whom thou hast now to do with, let thy refuge be with all speed. To thine own, that it resolve upon nothing but justice. To that of the universe, that thou mayest remember part of whom thou art, of his, that thou mayest consider, whether in the estate of ignorance or of knowledge. And then also must thou call to mind that he is thy kinsman. 21. As thou thyself, whoever thou art, were made for the perfection and consummation, being a member of it, of a common society, so must every action of thine tend to the perfection and consummation of a life that is truly sociable. What action soever of thine, therefore, that either immediately or afar off hath not reference to the common good, that is an exorbitant and disorderly action, yea, it is seditious, as one among the people who from such and such a consent and unity should factiously divide and separate himself. 22. Children's anger, mere babbles, wretched souls bearing up dead bodies, that they may not have their fall so soon, even as it is in that common dirge song. 23. Go to the quality of the cause from which the effect doth proceed. Behold it by itself, bare and naked, separated from all that is material. Then consider the utmost bounds of time that cause, thus and thus qualified, can subsist and abide. 24. Infinite are the troubles and miseries that thou hast already been put to, by reason of this only, because that for all happiness it did not suffice thee, or that thou didst not account it sufficient happiness, that thy understanding did operate according to its natural constitution. 25. When any shall either impeach thee with false accusations, or hatefully reproach thee, or shall use any such carriage towards thee, get thee presently to their minds and understandings, and look in them, and behold what manner of men they be. Thou shalt see that there is no such occasion why it should trouble thee. What such as they are think of thee. Yet must thou love them still, for by nature they are thy friends, and the gods themselves, in those things that they seek from them as matters of great moment, are well content, all manner of ways, as by dreams and oracles, to help them as well as others. 26. Up and down, from one age to another, go the ordinary things of the world, being still the same. And either of everything in particular, before it come to pass, the mind of the universe doth consider with itself and deliberate. And if so, then submit for shame unto the determination of such an excellent understanding. Or once for all, it did resolve upon all things in general. And since that whatsoever happens, happens by a necessary consequence, and all things indivisibly, in a manner and inseparably, hold one of another. In sum, either there is a God, and then all is well, or if all things go by chance and fortune, yet mayest thou use thine own providence in those things that concern thee properly, and then art thou well. 27. Within a while the earth shall cover us all, and then she herself shall have her change, and then the course will be from one period of eternity unto another, and so a perpetual eternity. Now can any man that shall consider with himself in his mind the several rollings or successions of so many changes and alterations, and the swiftness of all these rulings, can he otherwise but contemn in his heart and despise all worldly things? The cause of the universe is as it were a strong torrent. It carrieth all away. 28. And these, your professed politicians, the only true practical philosophers of the world, as they think of themselves, so full of affected gravity, or such professed lovers of virtue and honesty. What wretches be they in very deed, how vile and contemptible in themselves! O man, what ado dost thou keep? Do what thy nature doth now require. Resolve upon it, if thou mayest, and take no thought whether anybody shall know it or no. Yea, but sayest thou, I must not expect a Plato's commonwealth. If they profit, though never so little, I must be content, and think much even of that little progress. Doth then any of them forsake their former false opinions that I should think they profit? For without a change of opinions, alas, what is all that ostentation but mere wretchedness of slavish minds that groan privately, and yet would make a show of obedience to reason and truth? Go to now, and tell me of Alexander and Philippus and Demetrius Phalereus, whether they understood what the common nature requireth, and could rule themselves or no. They know best themselves. But if they kept a life, and swaggered, I, God be thanked, am not bound to imitate them. The effect of true philosophy is unaffected simplicity and modesty. Persuade me not to ostentation and vainglory. 29. From some high place, as it were to look down, and to behold here flocks, and their sacrifices, without number, and all kind of navigation, some in a rough and stormy sea, and some in a calm, the general differences, or different estates of things, some that are now first upon being, the several and mutual relations of those things that are together, and some other things that are at their last, their lives also, who were long ago, and theirs who shall be hereafter, and the present estate and life of those many nations of barbarians that are now in the world, thou must likewise consider in thy mind, and how many there be, who never so much as heard of thy name, how many that will soon forget it, how many who but even now did commend thee, even a very little while perchance will speak ill of thee, so that neither fame, nor honor, nor anything else that this world doth afford, is worth the while. The sum, then, of all, whatsoever doth happen unto thee, whereof God is the cause, to accept it contentedly, whatsoever thou dost, whereof thou thyself art the cause, to do it justly, which will be, if both in thy resolution and in thy action thou have no further end than to do good unto others, as being that which by thy natural constitution as a man thou art bound unto. 30. Many of those things that trouble and straiten thee, it is in thy power to cut off, as wholly depending from mere conceit and opinion, and then thou shalt have room enough. 31. To comprehend the whole world together in thy mind, and the whole course of this present age to represent it unto thyself, and to fix thy thoughts upon the sudden change of every particular object. How short the time is from the generation of anything unto the dissolution of the same, but how immense and infinite both that which was before the generation, and that which after the generation of it shall be. All things that thou seest will soon be perished, and they that see their corruptions will soon vanish away themselves. He that dieth 100 years old, and he that dieth young, shall come all to one. 32. What are their minds and understandings, and what the things that they apply themselves unto? What do they love, and what do they hate for? Fancy to thyself the estate of their souls openly to be seen, when they think they hurt them shrewdly, whom they speak ill of, and when they think they do them a very good turn, whom they commend and extol. Oh, how full are they then of conceit and opinion. 33. Loss and corruption is in very deed nothing else but change and alteration, and that is it, which the nature of the universe doth most delight in, by which, and according to which, whatsoever is done is well done. For that was the estate of worldly things from the beginning, and so shall it ever be. Or wouldest thou rather say that all things in the world have gone ill from the beginning for so many ages, and shall ever go ill? And then among so many deities, could no divine power be found all this while, that could rectify the things of the world? Or is the world, to incessant woes and miseries, forever condemned? "34. How base and putrid every common matter is, water, dust, and from the mixture of these bones, and all that loathsome stuff that our bodies do consist of, so subject to be infected and corrupted. And again, those other things that are so much prized and admired, as marble stones, what are they, but as it were the kernels of the earth? Gold and silver, what are they, but as the more gross feces of the earth? Thy most royal apparel, for matter, it is but as it were the hair of a silly sheep. And for color, the very blood of a shellfish. Of this nature are all other things. Thy life itself is some such thing too, a mere exhalation of blood, and it also apt to be changed into some other common thing." 35. Will this querulousness, this murmuring, this complaining and dissembling never be at an end? What then is it that troubleth thee? Doth any new thing happen unto thee? What dost thou so wonder at? At the cause or the matter? Behold, either by itself is either of that weight and moment indeed. And besides these, there is not anything, but thy duty towards the gods also. It is time thou shouldst acquit thyself of it with more goodness and simplicity. 36. It is all one to see these things for 100 of years together, or but for 3 years. 37. If he have sinned, his is the harm, not mine, but perchance he hath not. 38. Either all things by the providence of reason happen unto every particular, as a part of one general body, and then it is against reason that a part should complain of anything that happens for the good of the whole. Or if, according to Epicurus, atoms be the cause of all things, and that life be nothing else but an accidentary confusion of things, and death nothing else but a mere dispersion, and so of all other things, what dost thou trouble thyself for? 39. Sayest thou unto that rational part, Thou art dead, corruption hath taken hold on thee? Doth it then also void excrements? Doth it, like either oxen or sheep, graze or feed, that it also should be mortal, as well as the body? 40. Either the gods can do nothing for us at all, or they can still and allay all the distractions and distempers of thy mind. If they can do nothing, why dost thou pray? If they can, why wouldst not thou rather pray that they will grant unto thee that thou mayest neither fear nor lust after any of those worldly things which cause these distractions and distempers of it? Why not rather that thou mayest not at either their absence or presence be grieved and discontented, than either that thou mayest obtain them, or that thou mayest avoid them. For certainly it must needs be that if the gods can help us in anything, they may in this kind also. But thou wilt say perchance, in those things the gods have given me my liberty, and it is in mine own power to do what I will. But if thou mayest use this liberty, rather to set thy mind at true liberty, than wilfully with baseness and servility of mind to affect those things, which either to compass or to avoid is not in thy power, wert not thou better? And as for the gods, who hath told thee that they may not help us up, even in those things that they have put in our own power? Whether it be so or no, thou shalt soon perceive, if thou wilt but try thyself and pray. One prayeth that he may compass his desire, to lie with such and such a one. Pray thou that thou mayest not lust or lie with her. Another, how he may be rid of such a one. Pray thou that thou mayest so patiently bear with him, so that thou have no such need to be rid of him. Another, that he may not lose his child. Pray thou that thou mayest not fear to lose him. To this end and purpose, let all thy prayer be, and see what will be the event. 41. In my sickness, saith Epicurus of himself, my discourses were not concerning the nature of my disease, neither was that, to them that came to visit me, the subject of my talk, but in the consideration and contemplation of that, which was of especial weight and moment, was all my time bestowed and spent, and among others, in this very thing, how my mind, by a natural and unavoidable sympathy, partaking in some sort with the present indisposition of my body, might nevertheless keep herself free from trouble, and in present possession of her own proper happiness. Neither did I leave the ordering of my body to the physicians altogether to do with me what they would, as though I expected any great matter from them, or as though I thought it was a matter of such great consequence by their means to recover my health. For my present estate, methought, liked me very well, and gave me good content. Whether, therefore, in sickness, if thou chance to sicken, or in what other kind of extremity soever, endeavor thou also to be in thy mind so affected, as he doth report of himself, not to depart from thy philosophy for anything that can befall thee, nor to give ear to the discourses of silly people and mere naturalists. 42. It is common to all trades and professions to mind and intend that only which now they are about, and the instrument whereby they work. 43. When at any time thou art offended with any one's impudency, put presently this question to thyself: What? Is it then possible that there should not be any impudent men in the world? Certainly it is not possible. Desire not then that which is impossible. For this one thou must think, whosoever he be, is one of those impudent ones, that the world cannot be without. So of the subtle and crafty, so of the perfidious, so of every one that offendeth, must thou ever be ready to reason with thyself. For whilst in general thou dost thus reason with thyself, that the kind of them must needs be in the world, thou wilt be the better able to use meekness towards every particular. This also thou shalt find of very good use, upon every such occasion, presently to consider with thyself, what proper virtue nature hath furnished man with, against such a vice, or to encounter with a disposition vicious in this kind, as, for example, against the unthankful, it hath given goodness and meekness as an antidote, and so against another vicious in another kind, some other peculiar faculty. And generally, is it not in thy power to instruct him better, that is, in an error? For whosoever sinneth, doth in that decline from his purposed end, and is certainly deceived. And again, what art thou the worse for his sin? For thou shalt not find that any one of these, against whom thou art incensed, hath in very deed done anything whereby thy mind, the only true subject of thy hurt and evil, can be made worse than it was. And what a matter of either grief or wonder is this, if he that is unlearned do the deeds of one that is unlearned? Should not thou rather blame thyself, who, when upon very good grounds of reason, thou mightst have thought it very probable that such a thing would by such a one be committed, didst not only not foresee it, but moreover dost wonder at it, that such a thing should be. But then especially, when thou dost find fault with either an unthankful or a false man, must thou reflect upon thyself, for without all question thou thyself art much in fault, if either of one that were of such a disposition thou didst expect that he should be true unto thee, or when unto any thou didst a good turn, thou didst not there bound thy thoughts, as one that had obtained his end, nor didst not think that from the action itself thou hadst received a full reward of the good that thou hadst done. For what wouldst thou have more? Unto him that is a man, thou hast done a good turn. Doth not that suffice thee? What thy nature required, that hast thou done. Must thou be rewarded for it? As if either the eye for that it seeth, or the feet that they go, should require satisfaction. For as these being by nature appointed for such an use, can challenge no more, than that they may work according to their natural constitution. So man, being born to do good unto others, whensoever he doth a real good unto any by helping them out of error, or though but in middle things, as in matter of wealth, life, preferment, and the like, doth help to further their desires, he doth that for which he was made, and therefore can require no more. And so we conclude books 7 through 9 of Meditations. May these reflections stay with you tonight. Rest well.